Okay, so if you can see this picture that I've got on the screen, so over here I've got the nervous system, and the reason I want to start here is there's a concept which is brought in the Sefer Yetzirah that there are 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which we're going to look at today. And in addition to that, there are 10 numbers. Now, what's interesting about that is there are 32 main nerves in the nervous system. Right? There's 12 which are connected directly to the brain, and then there's branches, 31 branches, which come out of the spinal cord. And according to Kabbalah and just understanding of how it works, is that the letters and the numbers were part of creation. So you may have heard the term abracadabra. That's used by magicians. So it's actually a Hebrew word. Abra comes from the word abara, means I will create. Kadabra, as I speak. Now, the truth is that when we speak, we have the power to create things. So speaking is abra, I will create by speaking. And that's how we know God created the universe through speaking. So Hebrew that we're going to learn is not just the language, but it's a building block. It's the language that God speaks, and it's the language of the angels. And I want to start at the beginning saying that there's a big difference between what we call biblical Hebrew and modern Hebrew, and we will touch on both. But just to elaborate on this concept of how this applies to us, in essence, if I have to describe anything, language is a form of communication. It gives us the ability to communicate with others. And you need a system of numbers as well as letters in order to form sentences. Now, for example, if I had to say 5 teaspoons, I need a number component and I need the word spoons. I need that as a lexicon. I need to be able to have numbers and letters in order. Once you've got numbers and letters, you can then say anything, right? Once you have that system, you can then describe a quantity and a quality of anything. Now, the 22 letters correspond to 22 units of which come off the nervous system, and the 10 letters are another 10, which comes to 32 in total. So it's an important thing to know. That when we speak, our words influence our body, and how we speak and how we pray, especially, has a very important. Our human being was created with the speech in mind, and what's one of the differences which is brought in the sages, that one of the primary differences between people and animals is that human beings have the ability to speak. Right? Animals, although they can communicate, but they can't articulate in the way that we can. So that's kind of one of the primary functions of the human being, is to be able to speak. Now, I'm going to jump into a concept over here. Let me just shut that down, and let me know if you can see that. Let me just to let you know, in Hebrew, right? So there's different parts of speech, which I want to concentrate today on the phonetics of the Hebrew language, and go through the letters to start with. I think a lot of you do know them, but it's always important just to start with it, so that we have a basic understanding. Now, in English, there are 7 different parts of phonetics, which we probably used to. Now, speech, if everyone can try, you can try this as an example. If you blow in your hand, right, you'll feel cold air, but if you go, like that, so you'll feel hot air. Now, we have the ability with our throat and our mouth and our tongue to enunciate different words. Now, in English, there's 7 different parts of speech. I'll just go over them. You probably already know them, but it's important to know the differences between English and Hebrew. So there's what they call the alveolar ridge, which is the gums just behind the upper teeth, which will be here. So some words are pronounced. If you say, for example, the word the, you'll feel your tongue pressing against that alveolar ridge. You then have your palate, which is the hard part of the roof, which is of the roof of your mouth, just behind that. You have the velum, which is slightly behind that. Then you have the avula, which is just before your epiglottis. You have your pharynx, which is sits around here. Like, for example, if a person has pharyngitis, you'll notice that they won't be able to talk properly because they have a swollen pharynx. Then you have your epiglottis, which, that's like the little piece of skin which is dangling on top of your esophagus. And then you have your trachea, which is the windpipe. Now, essentially, every time we speak, so wind comes from our lungs, and depending on how we move the different parts which we just spoke about, we can form different sounds. Now, in English, there's 7 parts of it, and we don't find the same. So, for example, we won't find a G, right, is a gimel. We'll find the equivalent, but something like a TH, like the, right, we won't have that in Hebrew. We don't have W, for example, in Hebrew. So there's a number of different sound pronunciations which we'll be used to in English, which don't apply in Hebrew. Now, in Hebrew, we have 5 essential components. There are guttural letters. Those are the letters which come from the throat. That would be like a deep sound. We have labial, which are letters which come from the lips, right, like a bass. We'll discuss that in a second. We have palatal, which are letters which are formed from the palate. We have lingual, which are letters which are formed from the tongue. And we'll discuss that as well. And then we have dental, which are words or letters which are pronounced with the teeth. So in Hebrew, there's only 5 different parts of speech, or 5 different elements of our body that we use to formulate sounds. Now, Kabbalistically, there's a big significance to this. I'll just give you one example of that. Taking the letter Aleph. So Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and Aleph means 1. If you try and pronounce Aleph, let's speak it out together. So A starts with your mouth, L goes inside to your tongue, and then the F comes from your throat. So it goes from outwards to inwards. So Aleph is something internal. Now, the opposite of that word is if you reverse those letters around, it spells the word Pele. Now, Pele means a miracle. And if you feel it coming out, P, it comes with your mouth, Lamed, and then Eh. So it goes in the reverse order. Instead of being inside out, it's outside in. And there's significance to every word and letter in the Torah and in the holy language, that how we speak it also has not just the influence on its meaning, but it affects what it means. The words themselves carry weight and significance, how they're pronounced. So let's just, as a starting point, I think it's important for the next 2-3 days just to focus. If you guys can just unmute yourself, I just want to hear where you are holding. You can speak one at a time, because there's a huge difference between learning Hebrew for, let's say, religious purposes, that's what my main goal is, which is, let's say, for example, to be able to read from a siddur and to practice, let's say, meditative Kabbalah and things like that, where you'll need to know how to pronounce and sound and know the meanings. And then there's something completely different, which is conversational Hebrew, which we call modern Hebrew. If you, let's say, you want to go and converse in Israel, and hold a conversation. So it's kind of a very different outcome and a different process. I will try and cover both, and anyone who's interested in learning either of the two, I'm happy to do with you privately, to focus on those skills which are more important for you. So this is going to be kind of a crash course on the essentials of Hebrew, which will apply to all of it. So if you can just...
Yes. Yep, that's better.
Echo.
No echo.
Screen.
No echo this time. Green is good with Aleph Bet.
Houston, we made contact. The eagle has landed.
Nice. Someone sent a message.
Gimel in Hebrew is written like that, and in cursive, Aleph is written like that, and the Beis like that. Okay, so you're going to have cursive formation of the letters, and this is called a type or
or
non-cursive.
Okay.
Moving along, we have the letter Dalet, which is a D sound. Okay. And words such as David, that is Dalet, Vav, Dalet, David, and has numerical value of 4. Okay, so on our charts, just have a look. And a Dalet in cursive is going to be written like that.
Okay, so
you can, if you have a notebook, you can take notes for yourself of how the letters are formed, both cursive. You can always refer back to this.
Okay.
So
yes.
Sorry to interrupt again, but
all right. So the next letter is the letter Hey. Okay, and Hey is has a numerical value of 5, and it's the second of the guttural letters which come from the throat. And it's a word which we have over here is hello, right, or English word house. So it's an H sound. Now going to our chart, we'll be able to look. Hey in cursive is written like that. Okay. The next letter is the Vav. Okay, and Vav is has a V sound. Now it is slightly different to the V which is found in the vase, right? So Vav has a V sound, but we use slightly differently. We'll see in bigger words how that difference crops up. Vav in cursive is formed with one straight line going down. Okay, moving along is the next letter is the letter Zayin, which has a Z sound, and the word that we've got here is Zamiris. Okay, and the Zayin has numerical value of 7. Now in cursive, so a Zayin looks like this. Okay, now a lot of students of mine often get confused between the Gimel and the Zayin, because they do have a similar shape. So, for example, the Gimel in cursive has, make it a little larger, Gimel has that shape, right? And the Zayin is a very similar shape in cursive, and it's the opposite of it. Now, that sometimes confuses people. So I've got a little rule of how to remember which one's which. And a Gimel sounds like a G, right? So Gimel has a G sound. So I've got a little rule of how to remember that. If you draw right on the cursive, right, if you put a little J next to the Gimel, right, it forms that G shape. Right, so you always know that that's how the Gimel looks in cursive. Right, the Zayin is the opposite. Okay, moving along, we got the next letter, which is Ches. Now, Ches is a sound which isn't found in English. We don't have that guttural, it's a guttural letter. And in English, we don't have many examples. I don't think the word CH in English we pronounce ch. In Hebrew, it's ch. Now, for those who speak a Dutch or Afrikaans, so you'll be familiar with that. This is a unique to some of the European, Dutch, German, and Afrikaans. There's another other languages that have that ch sound. So it's chayim or chala. Okay, so that is something to be aware of. That it's not call it an English sounding letter, and in cursive is written like that. Okay, the next one is Tes. Tes has numerical value of 9, and it's got a T sound. Now, again, this is often confused with the Tuf, which also has a T sound, but we'll see in word formation the difference between that. Now, in cursive, Tes is shaped like that, it's almost like a backwards J. Okay, now moving along, we have Yud, which in cursive is written with like a little line like that, and it's got a Y sound. I'm going to pick up the pace a little. The next letter is Chaf, which is pronounced like a K, and if you notice, this is called a Kaf. A Kaf has the dot in the center. Now that dot in the center gives it a K sound. Now, in Hebrew, whenever we end off a letter which has, this is called a sofit in Hebrew, which means the ending letter. Now, there are several sofit letters, so I'm just going to highlight them for you in blue. Right, these are the letters which are safis letters. A chaf safit, which means a word which ends with a chaf changes its shape. A word which ends with a mem will change its shape. A word which ends with a nun will change its shape. A word which ends with a pei will also change its shape. And the last one is a word which ends with a tzadi will also change its shape. Now, these 5 letters are called safit letters, and they essentially have the same sound, but when found at the end of the word, we will practice some words with them. But just to be aware, that's the same letter, just a different form of it. Okay, moving along, we have the chaf. Now, the chaf is, again, a ch sound. We'll call it ch, right? A ch, or not like a j, but a ch, and that's got no dot in the center. Then you have at the end, you've got the safit of a chaf. Okay, moving along, we have the next letter, which is the lamed, and a lamed sounds like a L. Okay, now just to show you, a lamed is sometimes, depending on the format, sometimes has a little head on top, or sometimes that is squashed over. That's the same letter. This is just a lamed, and a lamed has a L sound, like the word lemon. Okay, the next one is mem, which has a M sound to it, mem. And just to give you something interesting, in Hebrew, as we said earlier, this is Lashon HaKodesh. So let me just write out some of these letters for you in cursive. So just to go through the 3rd line. So Yud is a little line, a Chaf is written like that. Okay, and that will take you through the whole. A Chaf Safit is like that. A Lamed is as such. And a mem looks like that, almost like an N shape. Now, in Hebrew, the word for water is ma-yim. Okay, and this last letter is mem. Now, what's interesting about water, right? So if you spell mayim forwards or backwards, it starts with mem, yud, and then mem. And it's cyclic, which means it's a word which can be spelled both forwards and backwards, like the word mom or bob, right? It's either way, it's spelled the same way. Now, if you think about how water is formed, right, from the clouds, evaporation, condensation, and then rain, right? So it kind of shows us that the cycle of water it's multi-directional. So water is formed backwards and forwards. That's why the words themselves carry meaning. They're not just simple words, but they actually explain concepts. All right, so moving along, we've got the letter nun, which is in cursive, looks like that. Looks like a backwards L, and it's got an N sound to it. Okay, so nun, not like number. Okay, the next set of letters, that's again in blue, is the nun sofit that will be found in the word, which is the end of a word, and the nun sofit is a long line down in cursive. The next letter is a samach, which is a S sound to it, and in cursive is written like a circle. Okay, we then have ayin, and this is a guttural sound, and ayin has a I sound to it, almost an IE sound to it, and in cursive, an ayin is written as such. Okay, we then have a pay, and the pay looks like has a P sound, like for example, payment. And you'll notice that the pay has the circle inside, and that's called a pay. And in cursive, it's written as such. Okay, we then have a fay, which has a F sound to it. So fay has the F sound to it, and this would have a dot in the center. A fay would also have the same shape, but without the dot. And again, in blue, we have the safit sounds. Okay, so Okay, so moving along, sorry. Okay, we've got the pace of feet over there, and that's the same thing. So it's got the P sound to it. The next one is a tsadi, and there isn't really a good, we don't have this in English. It's a TZ sound. So it's a ts sound, which isn't native to English. Right, so it's a ts sound, and in cursive it's written like that, like almost like a 3. And they've got a tsadi surface, which is the end of the word. Okay, the next letter is a kuf, and this also has a K sound to it. And in cursive it's written as such, right? Kuf, K. And the next one is Reish, which has an R sound to it. And in cursive, it's written like a half circle. And that's the Reish, like ray, like rainbow. Okay, you then have, moving along, the Shin and the Sin. Now, the Shin has the SH sound to it. In cursive, it's written as such. And it's got a dot on the right-hand side. So just the way that I hope to remember the shin and the sin, if you're right-handed, so we shake with our right hand. So if you think of the shin, it's got the dot on the right-hand side. And if you think of the word shake, that's the sound that the shin makes, a SH sound, like shake. You then have the sin, which is got the dot on the left-hand side, and it's got a S sound to it, okay, and it's got the same shape to it. So you've got sin. And then finally, the last 2 letters is the taf, which has a T sound. It's got the dot in the center, and the saf, which has a S sound to it. Now, this is one of the a big difference between, call it the, where you'll notice the difference between the pronunciation of Ashkenazi versus Sephardi is with the taf and the saf. In Havara Sephardic, the taf and the saf are not enunciated any differently. They'll both end with a T sound, but we'll come back to that. Now, just to look at what we have in front of us. So I'm going to take you to just to break it down here. So Aleph, Beis, Vase, Gimel, Daled, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, and Yud. Now, just to show which letters you can be familiar with automatically, Aleph has an A sound, Beis has a B sound, Vase has a V sound, Gimel has a G sound to it, Dalet has a D sound, Hey has an H sound to it, Vav has a V sound, Zion has a Z sound, Ches, again, doesn't have a native English component to it. Tes has a T sound, and Yud has a Y sound. Okay, now if anyone wants to unmute themselves and would like to, I'm going to circle 3 letters, and I just want to see whoever feels that they would like to practice the names of the letters. Now's your chance. So if you feel confident to name the letters, okay.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Can I ask one question? On the previous page, was there a discernible difference? I couldn't tell the difference between the cursive mem and nun.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to draw it over here. Cursive mem looks like an N shape. So that's a cursive mem. Okay.
Okay.
A nun looks like that. So this is a mem.
Okay.
And this is the nun.
Got it.
Good.
Yeah, that's couldn't see the nun one in the last picture. So.
Right. Okay. So great. So if anyone wants to try and give it a shot to identify these 3 letters, okay, go for it. Anyone brave enough?
Put the letters back on the screen.
Okay, can you see them?
Okay, I know what they are, but I'm going to pronounce them differently. But I can pronounce them Bes. It's Bet in
Okay.
Sephardic.
Excellent.
Vav.
Good.
And Het.
Perfect.
Or Het.
Ches. Good. Excellent. Good.
Yes.
Right. So we're going to call it Ches, but yes, when we get there, we're going to call it Het and Ches.
I'm blind. I can't see, so I can't join in the activity.
All right. No problem. Okay. So for you, Esther, you can listen to the pronunciations and the sound will be important for you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try another one. If anyone wants to brave it out, who would like to go for this one?
Anybody want to go for it?
Why not?
Okay, go for it, Ari.
If I could see it, I'd have a go.
Okay. That'll be
I can't see it yet because okay, now it's back.
okay.
Oh, it's gone again.
You got it?
Oh, I see. When other people talk, it goes to their screen.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's Gimel.
Good.
He. Zayin.
Perfect. Excellent. Good. All right. So, guys, I want to reiterate that the best way to learn is actually to practice and to do this exercise on your own, to go through the Aleph Beis and you have that notes and to practice the sounds and to use it with the notes so that you'll get better at it. Okay. I'm going to go on to the next one. And over here, we're starting with this is a Kaf, which has the K sound. We've got the Chaf, which again has no native sound in English. You've got the Safit, which is the Chaf Safit and the Chaf Safit and the Chaf Safit. There's Lamed, which is either with the head up or a head down. It's actually the same letter. Then you have Mem, which has a M sound to it. You have a Safit over here. This is the Safit of a Mem. It has an N sound to it. And then you have the Safit of a Nun Safit, followed by the Samach, which has the S sound to it. So I'm just going to highlight once again in blue the Safit.
Come on, Ori.
Sounds. All right.
Ari, could you mute yourself?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. In blue, I'm just highlighting the Safit sounds. They are pairs. I'm going to number it now. So this over here, Kaf and Chaf Safit. So this is the same. So we're going to number this one. Mem and a Mem Safit. Nun and a Nun Safit. And then the Samach. Again, we have here only, and the Lamed, which has a L sound to it. So again, this is native to English as well. So being an English speaker, some of these pronunciations you'll be familiar with. Okay, I'm going to do the same exercise with this one more time. If anyone wants to have a go at it, be a little more daring. And let's see if you can try these three. Okay, anyone want to have a go? Okay, so you can unmute yourself if you want to take a shot. Kelly, you want to take a stab at it?
Is that the Nun?
Good, excellent, right? So that's central
And
Nun. Good.
And Samek.
Excellent, fantastic. Right. So the
And
bottom,
is the first one? Is it? I'm not sure.
good. Okay. So excellent. So of this is actually a Chaf and a Kaf Safit. So in the Chaf. Good. Perfect. So well done. Okay, so that's essentially those letters. Let's move on to the last set, and then I want to move on to some of the phonics, and we'll leave that for today. Okay, so finally we're going to go on to the last set, which is from Ayin to Taf. Now Ayin, we said, has a almost like a ER pronunciation. So you may be used to saying this does have almost a native sound to it in English. So E and R. Pay and Fay. Pay has the P sound, and Fay has the F sound. Now over here we have a face of it. And then we have a tsadi. Again, not native to English, but it has a TZ sound, like for example, tzitzit. Okay. Moving along, we have a tsadi sofit. Then we have a kuf, which has a K sound. So you've noticed that there's been more than one letter in Hebrew which has a similar sound. The K's come up with kaf as well. Then you've got the resh, which has a R sound to it. You have the shin, which has the SH sound to it. You then have the sin with the dot on the left, which has the S sound to it. And then you've got the taf with the T sound to it, and a saf, which has the no dot and an S sound to it. All right, so again, I'm going to go for it. If anyone wants to take a stab and tell me what letter that is. And let's do 3 of them. Okay. Anyone brave enough to take a go?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, it's a Fe,
Good.
a Tzadik,
Excellent.
and a Shin.
Great. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so great. Let's try another one. Who wants to try this?
Sin.
Good. And the top one?
Fe.
Good, excellent, great. So that's how we're going to practice. I suggest that in your own notebooks you practice writing these letters, and getting used to the different sounds which they make. Now, once you're used to the shape and the sounds of the letters, you'll be able to get along with it, and be able to start forming words. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to end off today. We'll pick up with this in tomorrow's lesson. And that is the vowels underneath the letters. So let me just see if we can find it. Okay, so in Hebrew, we have different letters which are found, right? We call them, they're called in Hebrew nakudas. Nakudas actually just mean dots, but with the dots, there are different sounds to them. Now, again, you can look through this. It's available both on the group and online to download. Now, the first one is called the komats. Now, komats looks almost like a T in shape. Now, if you have a seed in front of you, you might be able to find it. You'll find words. Let's say, for example, let's draw a hay. You'll find a hay, and then with the komats underneath. Right? So komats has a ah sound. So it's like a bit of a sharp sound. Ah. Right? So that will be read as ha. So we'll take the H and we'll give it a little bit of a boost. So what these nakudas do is they kind of boost the emphasis of the letter. So it's not something which we find in English. We don't find this in English. The closest we have to it are perhaps in apostrophes and things like that. In other languages, there are different emphasis and they are marked with different connotations. So, for example, you may find this in a language. Now, that again, it's a different way of pronouncing the letter E. Now, in Hebrew, these dots go together with letters. So this over here would be a komatz hey. which will be pronounced ha. We will pick up on this tomorrow, so don't worry about it. The next one is a patach. A patach is a flat line. And again, if I had to take this off and replace the commas with a patach, so instead of being ha, it's now ha. Okay, so ha and ha. Okay, moving along, we have the tseire. A tseire is two dots which are adjacent to one another. And using our example of that we had here, so if I'm going to take away the patach and replace it with two dots, so tseire has an A sound to it. So that's a tseire. So two dots beneath it. It's not okay. The next one is the segel. A segel almost looks like three circles, and a segel has a sound to it. Okay, and we will practice again tomorrow with sounding these letters of what they sound like. But a segel, so if I have to take this again away, so instead of being hey, if I put a segel, it will be he. Okay, so if I have the three dots beneath it, so then it will be he. So he. Okay, so if I have, sorry about that. Okay, so he. Okay, so segel beneath it would make it he. The next one is what's called the cholam. And the cholam is written either in two ways. It's either got a single dot on top, or it's written with a vav, and then the dot goes in front of the vav. Okay, so if I
ha,
took
ha.
it's
going too far.
Okay, we will go over this particular section, which we'll cover in more detail. I just wanted to cover it today, just so that we are familiar with it for tomorrow. Now, a cholam is a dot on top, like that, and that dot on top will make it hoy, hoy. Okay, so it's got the H sound, but it's now pronounced slightly different, hoy. Okay, we will do examples of the different letters with them. Moving along, we have the kubutz and the shuruk, and both make the U sound. Okay, so if I had to go to the example of the hey, and I remove the cholam, right? So I'm going to put instead a kubutz. Now, kubutz would make it sound different. The kubutz would sound as follows. So I'm going to now put, one moment. Okay, so a kubutz, no, that's not good. Sorry about that. Okay, so kubutz is three circles. So we've got one, oopsie, so it looks like that, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and the kubutz, it's a bit crude of the drawing, but we will fix that. Okay, so a kubutz will now change it to sound like who, right? Who. Okay, who. It's now got a oo sound to it. So that's what the kubutz does. The kubutz has a oo sound. Okay, and the last one I think that we're going to cover is the chirik. Okay, and the chirik has a e sound to it. So if we go back to our example, if I look at the hey and I take away the kubutz, so it's no longer going to be who, but it's going to be with a single dot underneath. It looks like that, and it's got a e sound to it, almost like a double e, like the word tree. Right? So if you think of a chirik, you'll think of the word such as tree. Okay, so tree would be a chirik. So just to, let's see if I have that. So think of a chirik as a double e. So that's the chirik, as an e sound to it, he. So tomorrow, guys, hopefully we'll get the sound and all that working a little better. What we're going to do is, I suggest for tomorrow's lesson, practice going over the letters and the sounding of it. Use that, there's an 80-page document which we put on the group. It is available on the website as well, just to get familiar with the sounds. On the website, there's also pronunciations of those letters, so just to familiarize yourself. And then the nakudas, we will go over that again tomorrow. So just for today, just to recap, so we covered the 22 letters, and some of them again are native to English speakers, others on brand new sounds. And if you can just familiarize yourself with the shapes and the sounds of the letters, then tomorrow we're going to start working on saying short words, 3-letter word combinations with different nakudas underneath. All right, guys. So if you have any questions before we log off, just let me know. You can unmute yourself.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
I'm supposing everybody knows the website address, but it might be good to just let them know, just in case. I don't know.
Okay, so my website is www.bejewish. It's 2 E's, B-E-E, and then Jewish.org. Okay, I'll post the link to that as well. So I'll put it on the group. So anyone who's on the group will be able to access it. All right. Thanks, guys. Any other questions before I sign out? Okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming, and hopefully tomorrow will be a little smoother.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to head off to work myself. Have a blessed day.
Great. Thanks so much, guys, for coming.
Thank you.
Cheers.